As we move down the Ranger line, we now have a Calvin-focused episode, which I have high hopes for, despite the fact that based on the comparison I made in my last review, the 5th episode of Dino Charge was pretty bad. Still, this season has a completely different setting and characters than Dino Charge, so it's a little unfair for me to say what didn't work for one show won't work for another. Plus, the title of this episode doesn't sound anything like the plot of Breaking Black, so these comparisons may prove to be invalid, but there's only one way to find out, so let's take a look at Power Rangers Ninja Steel Episode 5, Drive to Survive. The episode opens with Calvin putting the finishing touches on a motorbike he built from scrap, which excites Sarah, who wants to see how fast she can ride it after Calvin does a test drive. Calvin says that Sarah can instead be the first to ride it, leading to a disagreement between the two over who should go first before the others ask what Calvin's deal is. With Haley's support, Calvin reveals that he's been afraid of driving ever since he crashed his go-kart when he was a kid, and doesn't know how to drive even though he likes to work on cars. Brody then asks Sarah to teach both he and Calvin how to drive motorcycles so that he'll see there's nothing to be afraid of, while on the ship, a monster called Tango Web is chosen by Galvanax to defeat the Rangers since he has the tendency to eat people. Later, Tango Web goes to the high school where he shrinks down so he can sneak up on the Rangers, while inside, Victor and Monty are eating beans so they'll be so gassy they're asked to leave class early. I'm not even going to comment on how stupid that plan is. Monty freaks out at the sight of the spider, so Victor tries stepping on it, but Tango Web's monster strength is able to push the jock away before growing to normal size. Victor tries to scare the monster with some fight poses, but ends up getting wrapped up in a web with Monty, and rather than eat them, Tango Web tells the two to step aside so he can find the Power Rangers. And it's a good thing that Tango Web didn't eat the duo, otherwise we would have missed out on the hilarity of Monty getting gas and inflating the web with his farts. Haha, can't you just feel the funny? Oh god. Meanwhile, the Rangers are busy watching Brody successfully ride a motorcycle, but when Calvin gives it a shot, he accidentally crashes into a trash can.
Oh, Cal.
You okay? That crazy motorcycle almost just killed me.
I think you might be exaggerating a bit.
I'm gonna go change my clothes.
Hey.
Look, I want to learn to drive. I just can't seem to get over my fear.
Look at me, Calvin Maxwell. There's nothing you can't do.
Thanks, Haley, but maybe driving just isn't for me.
Aw, poor Calvin. Once Calvin leaves, the others are immediately met by Tango Web, who, after watching the Rangers perform the most bland and boring rendition of the morphing sequence I've ever seen, jumps into the air and tries to suck up the Rangers in his vortex-like mouth. Tango Web swallows up Calvin's motorcycle, as well as all the Rangers except for Brody, and though they try to escape, they can't break through the monster's webbing. This leads to Brody going one-on-one with Tango Web, which honestly would be a pretty cool fight if not for the Red Ranger's constant unfunny quipping. Calvin returns just in time to see Brody sucked up by the monster, but rather than swallow the Yellow Ranger as well, the monster just leaves because he's too full. Calvin heads back to shop class where he explains the situation before they're contacted by Brody, who says that Calvin's the only one who can save them. The prism then shows Calvin a vision of his motorcycle, which Calvin sees as a clue as to how to defeat the monster. And even though Calvin was there when Mick made the Zord stars for the team, he still asked Mick how to make ninja stars, even being surprised that the prism threw the star back at him. Calvin says that in order to save the others, he needs to ride the motorcycle, but he's not sure that he has the courage to do it, and despite Mick and Redbot having no clue as to why Calvin is scared, or what he and the other Rangers were even doing prior to Tango Web's attack, they still say that they believe in him, giving Calvin the confidence he needs to save his friends. When Calvin meets the monster again, he allows himself to be sucked up with the other Rangers, yet for some reason he doesn't appear already wrapped up in webbing like the others did, even using his star blade to cut up the webbing before it can trap him. Calvin then takes the webbing off his bike and attaches the ninja star to it, transforming it into a morph cycle, which he uses to free himself and the others from Tango Web's grasp. In order to prevent the monster from sucking them back up, Sarah creates a fog that the Rangers use to stealthily take down Tango Web before finishing him off with their final attack. Tango Web is soon gigantified, so the Rangers call on their Zords, and even though they put up a good fight, the Rangers are soon tangled in his web. Help comes in the form of Mick, who got a new Zord star from the prism, and even though the Rangers are nowhere near him, Mick throws Brody the star no problem. Brody uses the star to call in the Rumbletusk Zord, and after cutting himself free, uses the new Zord to not only blow away Tango Web, but also suck up the webbing off the other Rangers' Zords. Brody then transforms the Rumbletusk into its Ninja Zord form, and after shooting down Tango Web, the Rangers form the Rumbletusk Ninja Steel Megazord to finish the monster off. After the fight, Galvanax gives Ripcon punishment for his failure by assigning him toilet duty for the whole ship, with Madame Odious adding that they're serving spicy beans for dinner, and oh my god, I can't believe I had to write that. Elsewhere, Calvin shows the others his new driver's license that he obtained off-screen, and after Mick shows the team their new Mega Morph Cycle stars, the episode ends with this.
Is that Victor and Monty?
Yeah.
Watch out for that flagpole.
Oh my god!
Lovely. This episode is pretty bad. Don't get me wrong, I know this show isn't as good as Dino Charge, and because of that I was willing to give this episode the benefit of a doubt, but after that scene between Madame Odious and Ripcon, I was forced to see how bad this episode truly is. But before I get into the stuff that angered me so, let me talk about the few things that I actually liked here. First, Calvin's characterization is not half bad. I really did feel for him with his fear of driving, and I appreciate that the episode focuses on trying to get him over that hump. Secondly, I absolutely love this scene between Calvin and Haley, not only because it's a really sweet scene, but also because it's the type of relationship stuff that I've been waiting to see from this show for the past 3 years, creating the possibility for a variety of different relationship stories now that we've moved away from the will they won't they thing. But sadly, that's the end of my positives for this episode. While some of the action sequences are pretty good, Brody has given some awful dialogue with clips that are so bad and come at such frequency that it felt like I was watching the 1995 MMPR movie again. But to be honest, the ones in that movie were a little bit more clever.
Well, here comes the bitter aftertaste. Today's menu starts with a kick to the face. Our main course is me flipping over you. And for dessert, you're gonna let my friends go. What up, Iraq nerd? Eat this. Get back here. I am back here.
On top of the bad dialogue, there are also a fair amount of script inconsistencies, what with Mick and Redbot giving Calvin a pep talk, despite not being involved in his story arc up until that point, and Calvin being unwebbed when he's swallowed by Tangleweb just so he can save the others. But the worst part of this episode for me is, well, play it. This has to stop, guys. I realize this is a kid's show, and because of that, I thought I could just ignore this stuff and just review this show without thinking about it. But if those clips that I just showed prove anything, it's that this whole crude toilet humor thing has only gotten worse since Last Laugh. It's not even that I'm against fart jokes in general, I just don't think they have a place in Power Rangers. I mean, it's kind of hard to take a scene like this seriously.
Well, this brings back memories.
Huh. Then you did know my dad.
I should have known you were his son. With those pathetic fighting skills, you're as weak as he was.
When a scene like this is also in the same episode.
My eyes! It stings my eyes!
But even ignoring my personal bias against toilet humor in this show, this episode makes it worse because of how lazy the jokes even are. At least in Last Laugh, the joke comes so far out of left field that I can kinda see it being funny. Not as funny as Troy found it, obviously, but you know, it could get a chuckle out of someone. Here though, the setup is so fast and nonsensical that it feels like the writers just threw it in last minute so that Victor and Monty had something to do in this episode. Which, if that's all the joke was, I would have at least been able to ignore them, but no, this episode had to go the extra mile and throw in a toilet joke as fuel for why Ripcon and Madame Odious don't like each other, meaning that I have to talk about it because it's related to the season plot. Fantastic! Overall, I hate this episode. It's not the worst Power Rangers episode I've ever seen. Last Laugh still holds that title, but I hate this episode. What could have been a unique story of Calvin trying to overcome his fears with the support of his girlfriend is instead brought down by bad dialogue and an inconsistent script that seems specifically designed to piss me off. But you know, I'm probably so blinded by my hatred of the toilet humor in this episode that I would really like to hear some outside opinions, so let me know what you guys thought of this episode in the comments so I can see if I was too hard on this episode. One can only hope. I'm Nick, aka IronBad1993, and may the power protect you. Please subscribe for reviews of Ninja Steel, episode reviews. Also check out Dino Charge reviews too, episode reviews. Also there's Ninjago, which has reviews too. Go! Please subscribe.